thepascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal.
What's up? We got something really ridiculous that happened yesterday that I don't think a lot of us saw or heard, but it's actually getting read in transcripts and is making quite a big deal. Diddy's team was trying everything they could during Kid Cudi's very revealing and shocking testimony. They're trying to do everything they can during his testimony to get a mistrial. Yeah, I am still kind of trying to understand that as well, because I'm sitting here going, wait, what? On what grounds? It makes no earthly sense, okay? The fact that they're trying to get some sort of mistrial. And again, it's over stuff that it's like, what, you are predicting the future? Can you predict the future of what's about to go down? Because there are things that are being said. There are things that they were alleging that prosecution was going to say that wasn't even said, y'all. So again, it's kind of a ridiculous claim or a ridiculous request to sit there and say, yeah, I want this thing to be a mistrial right now. You need to let my client walk out. You need to let Diddy go right now because of what the prosecution, I have a feeling, is about to ask. Kind of ridiculous, y'all. Let's take a look at this article, okay? Again, Brian Steele, Diddy's lawyer, one of Diddy's team, okay, his defense, is asking the judge literally out loud, and we're going to look at a clip, a snippet of the transcripts, literally saying, oh, we need a mistrial right now. We need a mistrial right now because they're about to say certain things that they shouldn't say. They're going to try to allude that Diddy knows where some bodies are buried, if you get what I'm saying, that he was going to unalive certain people and all that. It's ridiculous and wrong. And thank God the judge caught it and said, nah, don't miss me with that nonsense. That's not what was going to happen. You don't know it was going to happen. So stop with the nonsense, right? So let's take a look at this. During Kid Cudi's time on the stand, which was absolutely insane and also didn't paint Cassie in the greatest of lights, to be really honest as well. The defense, I got to be real, got to call it like I see it. They did a decent job in trying to make it seem like, that she was playing both Diddy and Kid Cudi, right? But I digress. Let's get into this. So he's on the stand, okay, during this huge federal trial, okay, on yesterday. Brian Steele, an attorney for Diddy, who has denied allegations against him in this case, which we already know, pushed for a mistrial due to a question he deemed outrageous. There was one little question that was asked, and this man flew off the handle, basically saying, oh, how dare you ask that question? The prosecution is going to be starting to ask more questions about this. We move for a mistrial right now, right? And it's like, well, those things never were said, so stop. Especially given the fact that the prosecution asked Kid Cudi if he was worried about his own safety because of being up here, because of, testifying and all that. And I'm going to be real. A lot of people are worried about testifying right in front of a now known to be psychotic individual, okay? And I get it, all right? We don't know if he's guilty of racketeering and the RICO charges and all that stuff, but at the same time, we do know that he's a volatile individual, someone who's willing to do terrible things, at least break into people's homes and mess their homes up, even terrorize their doggone dogs, okay? I mean, that's some really bad stuff, to say the least. And then, of course, just from the video that we saw with Cassie and Diddy in that hotel room, that says enough, y'all. He clearly has no problem not keeping his hands to himself, all right? So, as shown in a court transcript, all right, Brian Steele, the defense, raised multiple objections during Kid Cudi's questioning, at one point leading to a sidebar, which we did not see, right? When we were covering this live, we didn't get to see the sidebar, but the sidebar actually was caught on the transcript, which we're going to look at very shortly. So there was a sidebar with the judge in which he said he was going to, quote unquote, move for a mistrial. This sidebar came amid questions directed to Kid Cudi about his time with Cassie, specifically comments being made about concerns for their safety and related quote unquote drama having contributed to their brief relationship's end. Now, let's be real. You got a guy who allegedly, had a car, his Kid Cudi's car go up in flames. This is a guy who allegedly was inside Kid Cudi's home, going through his Christmas presents that he had for his family, terrorizing his dog, all this stuff, chasing, looking for Cassie all over town to, I don't know, make her life a living hell, even also making Kid Cudi's life a living hell. I mean, yeah, I'd be a little worried about that person. And I definitely would want to be like, yo, Cassie, it's been real, but I'm out. I can't deal with this. I'm scared for my own life, my own livelihood, my own safety. And it's like, look at my dog. Look at Fido. Fido ain't changed. It ain't the same no more. He changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd be really concerned, especially if especially the things that I have in my home have been messed with. Cameras, security cameras that surround my home have been moved. I mean, stuff like that is wild, y'all. Crazy and disturbing stuff. Diddy is, if anything, if he walks out of this situation innocent, we still know that this man is diabolical, okay? Diablo Diddy. That's what he should be called. And Diddler as well, and baby old Diddy, and yeah. Nut juice on chesticles, but that's another conversation in itself, okay? The fapper. Anyway, Your Honor, I'm going to move for a mistrial. This is what Brian Steele was quoted saying in the court transcript. The government knows that the answer is about to be that Mr. Combs has had other people unalived. This is an outrageous question. Brian Steele and the court then had a seemingly tense back and forth about this argument, leading the lawyer to elaborate even further. So, according to Brian Steele, his objection came on the grounds that he expected Kid Cudi to answer a question about being scared of Diddy. All right? Because Diddy is violent and he has had other people unalived. So the back and forth continued from there, with Brian Steele citing a document that said that Kid Cudi had called friends who, quote unquote, told him that Diddy had had other people unalived. To be clear, Kid Cudi did not go on to say this. Instead, his testimony then moved on to more questions about his meeting with Diddy at the Soho House in Hollywood, basically calling him like he was standing there looking out at the city with his hands behind his back like he was a doggone Marvel superhero. Then, of course, Kid Cudi asked a bunch of questions about his car, basically saying, hey, you made my Porsche go up in flames with a Molotov cocktail. Are you going to reimburse me for my car? And Diddy's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What car? Right? Now, it's pretty crazy to think that his team would go move the goalposts as best as possible, as much as possible, okay, over something that never was said. Again, something that was never said. There was a question about why they broke up. Him alluding to the fact that, hey, things were getting crazy. I needed to get away from that drama and all that. And Brian Steele took it to a whole nother level, basically saying, oh, no. How dare they ask that? How dare they allude to the fact that my client is a monster in that type of unaliving way? How dare you say that? And the judge is like, they never said that. They never alluded to that. And I doubt that they were even going to go there. And Brian Steele's like, oh, no, they were going to go there. They were going to go there. Nah, y'all. That's a very desperate move, in my personal opinion. But let's take a look at this. Here's some of the transcripts. So this is at the sidebar. Brian Steele says, may I? The judge says, yes. Brian Steele says, Your Honor, I'm going to move for a mistrial. The government knows that the answer is going to be that Mr. Combs has had other people unalived. This is an outrageous question. The judge says, well, he didn't say that, though. Brian Steele says, but he will say that. The judge says, but he hasn't said that. Brian Steele says, well, he's about to say it. I'm putting the court on notice. Like, I'm letting y'all know. I'm going to let everybody know this whole court is out of order, right? Kind of an Attica type of craziness, right? So the judge says, no, you don't get to put me on notice. There's no grounds for any kind of application along those lines because no question that you're talking about has been asked and the answer has not been given. Now, again, is this a desperate move by the defense, or were they doing their job? Now, here's the thing. I know a lot of people are going to look at this and side-eye it, and I am too, okay? But I know that there's going to be other people that are going to say, hey, well, he was trying to avoid something from happening. Well, here's the thing. If the words never came out of their mouth, the prosecution cannot be accused of doing something that was never said. Here's the thing. It's not like they have a magic 8-ball in their corner, okay, where they're just shaking and going, oh, they're going to ask about, is he a murderous mother lover, right? No. Like, it's not like they have a crystal ball where they can look into the future and go, oh, there's a possibility that prosecution is going to ask that question to Kid Cudi. Those questions were never asked. In fact, over the last 2 weeks now, okay, because they've adjourned until Tuesday, they had 2 weeks where they've asked plenty of other people that have worked for Diddy, closely with Diddy, a multitude of questions. And not one of them have been asked, are they worried about Diddy taking their life? None of them have said that. Everyone has been saying all kinds of wonderful things, or just saying, hey, I'm ashamed of what I did with, doing things and working for Diddy. I needed to get away from the situation, and I did. None of them have said, I am scared that he's going to take my life, or I've heard that he has hurt and taken the lives of other people. Those words never came out of nobody's mouth. So again, this is the most outrageous reaction I've ever seen. And I'm going to be real. Brian Steele is a good lawyer too. This guy doesn't suck. So again, it just doesn't make any sense for him to go. It kind of feels like a low ball. And it's almost like they need another win, for the day. They need another point for the day. So let me just pull this out my ass real quick so that the judge can sit there and go, oh yeah, okay, yeah. In fact, because of that question was about to be asked, go ahead. Yeah, open the doors, release him. You can go back to his baby oil and Astro guide. Enjoy yourself. Bye-bye. Court is adjourned. Mistrial, guys. We're just going to have to do it all over again. You see what I'm saying? It just doesn't make any sense to me, guys. But again, like I said, this is ridiculous. This was a shot in the dark by the defense. And I have a feeling that we're going to see, well, we already saw a bunch last week. I have a feeling there's going to be a bunch more in the upcoming weeks as well. But what say you guys? To me, like I said, that's trash. It's ridiculous. It was a waste of time. It makes it feel like they're just grasping at straws, trying to find anything to get Diddy out of the situation that he's in. Doesn't matter if prosecution has done a great job at presenting what he's being charged for, or if they haven't presented everything properly yet. What is for sure is that this man is looking at his life being locked up behind bars. That's it. And there's nothing he can do to escape that. Even if you have a crystal ball, which they clearly do not. So anyway, what's your thoughts? Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button down below. Crush that subscribe button. And we'll talk here soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is the Pascal Show. Bye.
Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild.